During the last couple of months, I spent a lot of time recording podcasts and I've become really obsessed with all of these AI podcast apps. And I've been lately using Riverside, and just as a disclaimer, I don't get paid by anyone, but I thought, let me actually do a proper YouTube video where we talk about different alternatives, because with all of the sort of AI podcast apps coming up every single week, I think it's often even hard to understand which one is the best. And in this video, I'm not going to give you an answer, but I thought let's probably together review 4 of the ones which I think are potentially the best ones out there. So whether you're planning to launch your own podcast, or you're somebody like me who does a podcast, every other week or so and is considering switching to another app, I think this video would be really, really good, because we're going to look at, as I said, 4 different apps out there: Jellypod, Podcastle, Wondercraft, and JALP. And the main criteria will be today ease of use, features and integrations, pricing and plans, and whether there's a wow factor or no. Because a lot of them, to be very honest with you, look very, very similar, but there's always something which is like, wow, this is really, really cool. So I guess let's get going. And the first podcast app that we'll review is Jellypod. So Jellypod is essentially another AI podcast studio. And as you can see, I decided to start from the very beginning, from this whole onboarding stage, so that you could actually see how it works, and then you decide whether this is actually a good app or no. So AI, tech and innovation. So choose popular ideas. So as you can see, it doesn't let you basically generate stuff straight away. It asks you for this onboarding sort of questionnaire. So my podcast is actually called Visionary Vibes. And by the way, if you're curious, go to the YouTube channel and check the podcast we're doing lately called Visionary Vibes. Cool. It gives me this summary: debugging the future, one breakthrough at a time, blah, 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 insider's guide to tech trends. Let's begin. Let's create a podcast now with Jellypod and see just how it goes, I guess. Okay, so it probably took me like 30 seconds to generate this first, I guess, episode, if that makes sense. So now it says choose your hosts.
But sometimes all the stars in the entire universe conspire to make something.
Welcome to this training course. We will be covering multiple modules.
So this is pretty cool. It basically lets me choose the hosts, right? And depending on the voice I like. And actually, it can also create your own voice clone. And I've done that previously as well. We've uploaded my voice and then we cloned my voice. So that's also an option, but let's just stick to, I don't know, this one for now, right? Let's just do this one.
It doesn't mean you are a failure, it just means you haven't succeeded yet.
So podcast is created, as you can see, Visionary Vibes. The cool thing, it adds a logo straight away as well. You can generate a preview, let's see. There's 2 hosts now, Charlotte and Oliver, and each one of them got these fake bios, descriptions, but okay. Finished onboarding. Interesting. So the way it works is basically you create this whole setup from the very beginning, where you tell the app what the podcast is about and just give a bit of details, and then you can start creating the episode one by one. So as you can see, I've got this sort of ChatGPT style chatbot really here, and I can go, let's actually add one of my previous newsletters so we could actually test whether this works well or no. So, I think to make it easy, I'm just going to copy the text from my newsletter. So I've just pasted my previous newsletter, and what I want to do now, based on that newsletter, I want to generate a podcast. But let's go and let's see if it works. Cool. So I've just clicked on generate the podcast. The hosts are, well, Oliver, Charlotte. I think what's interesting on Jellypod is you can create multiple hosts. So I can keep adding and tweaking sort of all of the bits for every single host, because I've seen that some of the apps don't have that at all. Cool. I've uploaded my previous newsletter. Let's generate the script. So it's generating the script now. So based on that newsletter, as you can see in real time now, it's generating the whole podcast, basically, where our fake Charlotte and Oliver are talking to each other. I think that's really, really good, to be honest with you. So immediately I can be editing the podcast, adding more hosts, and then generating the script. And then the next step would be basically to generate the audio and publish it. It takes a while, but I think it's still pretty quick. But anyway, so you interact and you work on your sort of whole podcast through again, this ChatGPT style chatbot. And there's actually this really simple, useful tab where you can switch between your podcasts. So I think this is really, really useful for anyone who is working on multiple podcasts at the same time. But for someone like me, I find it very intuitive that I can either paste text, ideas, or some of my previous YouTube videos, so I could generate a podcast based on those files. Let's look at the pricing now before we move on to the next app. So pricing wise, there's a free plan, which is probably pointless if I'm honest. There's a starter plan, $29 per month, 2,500 monthly credits, and then there's the creator plan, 8,000 monthly credits. The only thing I'll say here and highlight is very often when it comes to the credits, it's very, very tricky because from my experience, it's a lot easier when you have a fixed sort of, okay, this plan gives you 2 hours or this plan gives you 3 hours compared to just 2,500 monthly credits, because you don't know how many credits is one episode going to be, because I'm pretty sure it depends on obviously the duration, but I'm also sure it depends on the number of hosts and stuff like that. So all in all, I think the price is average, so it's still good for sure, but it's the monthly credits where I'm a bit like, I'm unsure if I'm honest. Anyway, let's move on to the next one, because otherwise I think we can keep discussing this app hours and hours. So the next one, Podcastle. As you can see, there's no onboarding stage here, and you get this sort of very clear interface straight away. Now, honestly, sometimes this works better because very often, the way I see it, I don't want to prompt anything. I don't want to be asking this chatbot for anything. I just want to see the features that it has and then see these different tabs, folders straight away, rather than prompting the bot, really. So projects, recordings, there's a planner as well, brand kit. Having a brand kit is actually really, really useful, because otherwise I noticed how we end up wasting so much time tweaking every single episode just, because we need to add a logo, subscribe button, or some of those very sort of standard design elements. So I think the brand kit is really, really cool. You've got the studio here. So this is all looking nice and neat. Now let's go to the studio. Well, actually, before we go to the studio, let's go to AI voices. This is really cool because compared to Jellypod, where we had only, I think, like 5 voices, I think here there's like a massive library. So we've got hundreds of different voices here, and we can also still create our own voice, which is still very similar to what we just looked at with Jellypod. Cool. I think with voices, there's a lot more choice. So that's really good. But anyway, let's go to studios now. Let's create one studio. Let's go and create Visionary Vibes Studio. Audio and video, cool. By the way, compared to Jellypod, straight away we can see here left 3 hours out of 3 hours. So back to my whole point with credit system, I think hours, saying the hours is always a lot more beneficial, because I know exactly how many hours, can I spend this month with this app. Actually, let's go check out the pricing straight away, since, you can see it already. Well, interesting enough, this is sort of cheaper the way I see it. So you got the essentials, £20 a month, and you got the pro plan, £40 a month. £40 a month gives you 20 hours. Now again, going back to Jellypod, and as you can see, I'm switching the tab now. That's where it's tricky, where 1 credit equals to 1 second of audio. So 8,000, let's say monthly credits is 8,000 seconds. I don't know how many hours that is, but let's go back to Podcastle. So £40 a month, still cheaper. Cool. Now let's go try and create our own studio. So tech, AI, and innovation. Cool. Creating the studio. I mean, pretty basic stuff like we have everywhere. You can enter the studio, you can invite people, and you can start creating a podcast. So this is very similar to what I already do in something like Riverside. I don't see this being any different, but let's just see what we have in the interface here. Yeah, So we've got just the title, name, just really, really generic stuff. Let's not spend any more time here. Let's go back to, what I'm curious is seeing whether there's any AI functionality, you know, similar to Jellypod, where we could create like from scratch an entire AI generated sort of podcast, because I can't see this straight away here. So let me just try and see if there's anything like that. Let me go and create a project here quickly. So AI voices, cool. I think that's that. Well, let's just randomly choose a voice here. And let's again paste one of my previous newsletters here. So perfect, I've just pasted that newsletter. Let's see what it generates. Because what I really liked in Jellypod compared to this, which I'm not seeing yet here, is the fact that not only you paste the topic, but it kind of analyzes the thing that you sort of pasted, and then it comes up with a broader umbrella topic based on the thing that you added. Whereas here, what I think, well, let's see. Okay, so I've pasted my newsletter, and now...
Hey, value creators! Welcome to my very first edition of the Value Creator.
So this is very different actually compared to what happened previously and what we did in the Jellypod, because here I basically just added text, and this is essentially a voiceover sort of the text I've added already to the system. It's not really creating a unique AI podcast from scratch. It's just already saying what I already pasted. So in that sense, I think Jellypod is definitely a stronger option when it comes to creating AI podcasts with multiple hosts. But let's check if there's anything else that I find unique. Well, you've got all of the editing functions straight away in the app. But again, that's very, very generic. There's nothing that unique when it comes to those features. I mean, the AI clips thing is there. This is really, really useful when obviously you have like a, you know, like let's say a podcast ready, and then you want to chop that podcast into 40, 50 different shorts. And that's a really, really quick way to do it. And I haven't really seen that in Jellypod. Yeah, okay, cool. I think, again, purely my opinion, just to sum it up, if you are already using something like Riverside, I think this is not really worth it, because it just gives you the same features, the same functionality, without giving you anything like really new. But I think it's still a good option. I guess let's now move to the third option that we have today, which is Wondercraft, though they call it Wanda. So create with Wanda, create and edit professional content through natural conversation. And very similar to what we've seen with Jellypod previously, you have this whole sort of ChatGPT looking chatbot where you can add content. So now let's just go, I've got like a PDF file ready. Let's just add this file and go say, create a podcast based on the ideas in the attached file. I don't know how you feel about it, but I often find, again, this whole interface with ChatGPT, again, style bots a bit confusing, because very often I actually prefer the whole interface like we had in Podcastle, where you just have all of the features, all of the tabs, folders there, and that's it. So as you can see now, it says, I'll draft the script for your podcast. What I really like immediately here, as you can see on my screen now, is you basically have this live sort of editing, like real-time editing feature where I can see, okay, this is my bit and this is my hypothetical, you know, fake guest, and I can edit this in real time, and I assume this is already has voice. What's interesting, as you can see on the screen now, it says generate speech, right? So obviously I want to generate audio for the entire episode, but then it says for these 18 seconds, you'll be charged 0.3 credits. What I find confusing though, again, back to the whole credit system, if I'm generating, you know, some audio, and I obviously want audio for the entire episode, when it says something like 0.3 credits for generating this, it just confuses me. It's like, okay, how many credits do I need for all of my 4 episodes a month? But let's see.
Welcome back to Visionary Vibes. Today's topic is one I'm
that's
genuinely
me.
fascinated by: the future of human AI collaboration. We talk so much about audit.
Cool. And again, as you can see on the screen, if I want to generate speech again for now my fake guest, it will charge me that much. And it's a bit confusing, but again, since we're just trying to give like a high level sort of overview review, I think this is pretty cool that I get to edit the podcast in real time through this interface and, you know, being able to change very specific bits of this episode. Well, let's see what else there is. So there's voice, I can add my voice, I can choose any other different characters. Cool. I can create a new voice. What else can I do here in Wanda? Nothing else really, the way I see it. So it seems like their whole interface is really simplified, but I actually get it. They're trying to simplify it so you just focus on sort of creating stuff rather than, you know, getting distracted with, I don't know, AI clips and any other AI features out there. So it's really simple. So you upload ideas, the file, the link, whatever you want to upload, you add the voices, and then you keep editing, and then you just click on export, share the link, download, and that's it. So even though, the way I see it, this doesn't have as many features, you know, compared to some of the previous apps that we were looking at, like Podcastle or Jellypod, I actually still find this interesting how this seems like a really good option if I just want to create AI podcasts. I don't need anything else, and that's it. Well, let's look at the prices now again. And like I said, this is the bit that confuses me so much, you know, $160 a month for the pro plan, 600 credits. What does that mean? I mean that's what you probably need to look into to understand whether that's worth it or some of the previous options are better. But anyway, let's move on to our last one that I think we should review in this video. And this app is called JALP AI. Again, very similar thing. So this is the sort of interface that you get when you go to their website and you log in. I straight away find this very clean and simple, where, you know, let's say you can add a file, you can add a link, but let's say I'm just going to go and I'm going to add a file. So I'm uploading my PDF and let's see what it gives me. Okay, let's go and say generate an episode where we talk about AI and tech. Generate script, let's see what it gives us. So it's analyzing content. While we're waiting, let's go and see what else is sort of available on the platform. So you've got the speakers section, which is very similar to what other apps are doing. You've got all of the podcasts here. Let's check out the pricing. Again, another credit system. The problem with the whole credit system is everyone's got their own sort of ratio, you know, 2 credits is 1 second, 4 credits is 1 second. That, again, I've said it already like 5 times, but that really confuses me. But anyway, go back home. So all you can do is create episodes from files, URLs, scripts, you know, plain text. You can clone your voice, and then there's a voice library. So very similar to Wondercraft, right? They really just they're not trying to be a one-stop shop. They're trying to just keep the core functionality there, and that's it. And again, I think it does make sense, if I'm honest with you. So now we're finally done with generating our podcast in JALP AI. So as you can see, this is based on our file. Let's see what it gives us. So it's generating an audio.
So Brittany, we always talk about AI doing tasks for us, right? But the whole conversation is shifting. It's not just a...
Cool, so basically we've got these 2 people, fake people, with voices here. We can change the speaker, we can add new speakers. That's actually very similar to what we've been looking at in Jellypod, where you can be adding multiple hosts at the same time. Because I think in Podcastle and Wondercraft, at least I haven't seen that. So here we can add more speakers on the go. And this whole interface, again, is like a real-time editor, which is pretty useful. So I can edit this in real time and change all of the copy. Let's talk about Gen AI as well. That's really good. So I can then save it, generate the new audio. And again, this is a whole credit system. So, and then click export once the episode is done. And then, so this, you know, my podcast as a test is called AI Synergy here. And as you can see, cool, it's generating the podcast. I can share the link to my podcast, and that's pretty much it. So similar to Wondercraft, I think it's just a nice and neat way to generate AI podcasts. And if you're not looking for, you know, one-stop shop, that's a really good one. But I guess it's now time to sum up and say, you know, what's the best. And this thing is very, very subjective because it really depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for like a one-stop shop, then I think you should be probably going for Podcastle, because as you can see on the screen now, there's so many features out there with the AI clips, AI dubbing coming soon, even AI avatars coming soon, right? And having a brand kit is also useful. But what I find, well, at least this is our case, is very often we don't need that, right? We just need sort of AI voices. We need just the ability to generate these AI podcasts. And that's where I think something like Jellypod or all of the other two as well, you know, the Wondercraft and the JALP would work better. But I think for me, the wow factor was actually seeing this feature where you can upload and create multiple hosts at the same time. I think this is where Jellypod would be really, really good, because if we compare Wondercraft and JALP AI, it's a bit, I don't know what's the right word, not static, but you can only basically add like one person at a time, and it's very manual. I think that's the word. It feels very, very manual. It's as if I've got to put a lot of effort and time into generating that podcast with multiple hosts. Whereas if you're trying to generate a podcast with 4 fake AI hosts, I feel like Jellypod does that best, because even when I went to generate the whole sort of script and the whole episode based on exact same sort of newsletter that I added, Jellypod was the only one that basically took that as a basis, but then generated really cool ideas on top of that basis. So I think if you're looking for something more sophisticated, then probably Jellypod is the option to go. But again, at the end of the day, all of this is very, very subjective. So feel free to test things, because I don't think that there's any right answer out there. But again, for me, this would be probably Jellypod or Podcastle at this point, depending on the features that I need. So I hope this was useful, because even though we can't cover all of the features and all of the things that these apps are capable of, well, at least hopefully this is a good starting point for you. So if you've enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe, because I think we'll be doing a lot of more deep dives and analyzing a lot of the AI apps out there on the market, because otherwise there's just too many apps out there, and I'm doing all I can to help you understand what's better. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and most importantly, have a great day.